That's it. How dare you show your face here after what you did?
I did what I had to do for the company.
You betrayed every one of us!
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our true...
Nobody expected the night to end like this. The Grand Imperial Ballroom was filled with the most powerful people in the country. Billionaires, CEOs, investors, celebrities, and politicians laughed together under massive crystal chandeliers, while an orchestra played softly in the background. It looked like the perfect night. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Cameras flashed outside. Inside, every guest wore designer suits and expensive gowns. Waiters served champagne while business leaders celebrated another successful year. Near one of the champagne tables stood a man who didn't seem interested in any of it. His name was Daniel Carter,
and that is where hope
40
begins.
years old. A billionaire, a successful businessman, and a single father. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. His attention kept drifting to a small, silver bracelet in his hand, a bracelet that belonged to his young daughter. She had begged him not to stay long tonight because they had promised to eat breakfast together the next morning. Daniel quietly smiled to himself and slipped the bracelet back into his pocket. He had no idea this night was about to change his life. Across the ballroom, another powerful figure entered. Sophia Bennett, the company's brilliant CEO, confident, elegant, respected by everyone. She wore a stunning red evening gown and greeted guests with a smile that made cameras follow her wherever she walked. But the moment her eyes landed on Daniel, everything changed. Her smile disappeared. She stopped walking. For several seconds, she stared at him without blinking. Guests noticed the sudden change in her expression. A few executives exchanged confused looks. Without saying a word, Sophia started walking directly toward Daniel. Fast, purposefully. The conversations around the ballroom slowly faded. People instinctively stepped aside to let her pass. Daniel finally noticed her approaching. He looked surprised. Before he could even greet her, she stopped only inches away from him. Her eyes burned with anger. The room suddenly felt much quieter. Every guest nearby turned to watch. No one knew why one of the most respected CEOs in the country looked ready to explode. Daniel calmly asked, "Is everything all right?" Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hand. Sophia's hand cut through the air. Slap! The sound echoed across the entire ballroom. For a split second, nobody moved. The orchestra stopped playing. A champagne glass slipped from a guest's hand and shattered across the marble floor. Hundreds of eyes turned toward Daniel Carter. He didn't touch his face. He didn't shout. He didn't raise his hand. He simply stood there calm, staring at Sophia. That silence made everyone even more uncomfortable. The guests began whispering. Who is he? What did he do? Did he betray the company? Several people immediately assumed Daniel had made a terrible mistake. A few guests even laughed, believing they had just witnessed the downfall of another wealthy businessman. Sophia pointed at Daniel with anger still burning in her eyes. I warned you never to come back, she said. You don't belong here. The word spread through the ballroom like wildfire. Some guests nodded without knowing the truth. Others stepped farther away from Daniel, afraid of being associated with him. Security officers slowly approached from both sides. Daniel finally spoke. His voice was calm. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm only here because I received an invitation. Sophia let out a cold laugh. An invitation? You expect anyone to believe that? She turned toward the crowd. This man is lying. He wants attention. A wave of murmurs swept across the room. Phones were raised. People started recording. Daniel noticed every camera pointed at him, but his expression never changed. He quietly adjusted the sleeve of his black tuxedo. Then he looked around the ballroom. Not with fear, but as if he recognized every corner of the building. That small detail confused a few senior executives. One elderly board member frowned. Have we met him before? Before anyone could answer, the grand ballroom doors slowly opened. Every conversation stopped. Heavy footsteps echoed across the hall. The company chairman had arrived. Behind him walked several board members and senior executives. Without saying a word, the chairman looked around the room. His eyes stopped on Daniel. His expression changed instantly. The anger on his face disappeared. Instead, he looked shocked, then respectful. The chairman ignored Sophia completely and began walking straight toward Daniel. The entire ballroom fell silent once again. Sophia's confident smile slowly disappeared. For the first time that night, she looked nervous. The chairman stopped just a few feet away from Daniel. The entire ballroom held its breath. Instead of questioning him, the chairman respectfully lowered his head and said, "Mr. Carter, we're truly sorry." A wave of confusion swept across the room. The guests looked at each other. Sophia's face turned pale. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The chairman slowly turned toward the crowd. "I think everyone here deserves to know the truth." He pointed toward Daniel. "This is Daniel Carter, the founder of our company. He stepped away from the spotlight years ago after his wife passed away. Since then, he has dedicated his life to raising his daughter." The ballroom fell into complete silence. The phones that had been recording slowly lowered. The people who had laughed only moments ago now looked ashamed. Sophia took one step back. Her hands began to tremble. I didn't know." Daniel looked at her calmly. "You never asked." His voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. "You judged me before you knew me." The chairman then addressed the board members. "Our company was built on integrity and respect. No position is more important than those values." After a brief discussion, the board announced that Sophia was being removed from her position as CEO, pending a full investigation into her conduct. Tears filled her eyes. She realized that one moment of anger had destroyed everything she had worked for. Daniel could have humiliated her in front of everyone. Instead, he simply said, "I hope one day you'll learn that respect is earned by character, not by power." Without another word, he picked up his phone. A photo of his smiling daughter appeared on the screen. He smiled for the first time that night. Leaving the ballroom behind, Daniel walked toward the exit. Outside, the city lights stretched across the skyline. He wasn't thinking about business. He wasn't thinking about revenge. He was thinking about going home. Because the greatest title he had ever earned wasn't billionaire. It was dad.